Perhaps you hadn't imagined sixth formers can become quite sentimental about their time here. Quite right too. Almost all of you have been together for 6 years, some of you since kindergarten. So emotions are naturally running high. For some, the impact of your experiences at grammar and the prospect of leaving them all behind is rather daunting and frankly upsetting. For others, it can't come soon enough. Whatever your own feelings, one cannot deny that today is a signal moment in your lives, one to remember. It's customary at these Leavers Assemblies for the headmaster to offer some sage advice to those departing about how to live a good life. Well, there's an ocean of wisdom out there by people far more qualified than me for you to explore. But as someone who has seen many generations of boys pass through here, and as someone old enough to be a grandpa, I am happy to share with you a few grandfatherly observations on leaving grammar and entering the world beyond. One of the really rewarding aspects of having taught here for so many years is that you are constantly running into old boys, lots of them. The longer you're here, the more you run into. And these are usually very pleasant encounters, and it's always intriguing to see how boys have turned out. But I have to say, I'm often saddened when they start by saying things like, "Oh, you won't remember me, I wasn't very academic," or "I wasn't a typical grammar boy," whatever that means. When the truth is, I do remember them. For all kinds of reasons. How funny or cheeky they were, how outgoing or quiet, sometimes something memorable they did or said, how keen they were on music or writing or rowing or cadets, or simply what a lovely bloke they were. And whilst boys at the top end academically inevitably and rightly make their mark, it never defines them as people. The most enduring impression made by boys is invariably their character. So my first piece of advice is this: don't estimate your own worth or your future solely on how you have performed within the grammar context. Interestingly, very few of the old Sydneyans on those Men of Grammar banners downstairs appear on these honour boards. As time goes on, you will realise more and more just how remarkable a place grammar is and how atypical is its cohort. As I said last Friday, you have tested yourself within one of the most demanding environments anywhere, both academically and otherwise. And if you hadn't already realised, the world beyond looks very different to grammar. Some of you will know that for the last 8 years I've been working out at Sydney University interviewing many hundreds of school leavers, including many grammar boys, and watching how they have adapted to university life. I don't know whether you're aware, but Sydney University was actually founded in this very room back in 1851. That's the reason the University of Sydney crest is in the second last window there. They were here until they grew too large and moved out to Camperdown. One thing the university lacked in its early days was decent educated undergraduates. And so one of the principal reasons grammar was founded was to provide them, and now other universities of course, with precisely that, good students. And that has continued to this day. So the first reassurance I want to give you is this: we have been preparing boys for university for an awfully long time. And I can confidently say you are exactly where you need to be right now. You already know about hard work, perseverance, and the discipline needed to attain high standards. You are right on track to succeed in the way so many before you have done. So don't worry, you're doing just fine. For most of you, university is the next step. But if you know deep down that it's not for you, or at least perhaps not right now, then follow your instincts. If you have a long-standing and clear career goal with a university course to match, then that's great. If you want to go to uni but really have no idea what you want to do with your life, that's perfectly natural. To be asking 18-year-olds to know for sure what you want to do in life is a big ask. A general degree in science or arts, for example, even if your ATAR is well above those requirements, is time very well spent. In 3 years' time, you'll have a far better idea of what you want to do than you do now. What is important is that you follow your heart and pursue what is truly fulfilling for you. Sometimes that takes years to really know. 2 examples of recent old boys come to mind. One, a former senior prefect, who did commerce, was accepted into a major accounting firm, only to leave it 3 years later because the company's ethical stance did not sit easily with his own. He's now studying medicine. Another old boy I know worked in commercial law, again in a top firm, only to leave that 5 years into the job, and again because of cultural issues within the firm. He's now teaching English. As you head to university, be prepared to change tack if things don't work out as you had planned. There are no guarantees about university courses, even ones which you are convinced right now are right for you. Many students change course, even after the first semester, because it's not what they thought it would be, or they were simply bored. And changing course is relatively easy to do. I said earlier that one of the school's chief goals is to prepare you for university. That's true. But we would be negligent in our duty if we were not also preparing you for life beyond university. The Act of Parliament of 1851, by which grammar was founded, specifies, quote, "for the promotion of religion and morality," end of quote, as one of its primary aims. Now, I'm going to leave religion for you to make up your own minds about. Religion addresses the question... I'm missing a page. No. Religion addresses the question, the metaphysical question of why are we here? Something you might like to explore further on your own. Morality, on the other hand, tackles the more practical question of how should we live our lives. And that's something I am willing to say something about, because the way we live our lives and how we relate to others is what ultimately defines us all. What does it mean to live a good life? How do you respond to the privileges which you have been given in life, including a school like this? How has the grammar experience impacted or informed your inner life? Well, morality is only ever about one thing: how people treat each other, which is why society is generally at its worst, morally speaking, when we are divided, when the fabric of a community is frayed, and one doesn't have to look very far to see that very thing being played out. Our moral sense is developed out of our experience of learning how to get along with other people. First in the family, then the classroom and the playground, and finally in the wider community. And in each case, our values are being honed by putting them into practice, by respecting others for who they are, treating others as we would wish to be treated, taking responsibility for one another, demonstrating empathy and compassion, listening to one another, trusting one another. What the poet Wordsworth described as, quote, "the little nameless, unremembered acts of kindness and love." Morality is about making choices in our personal lives, in the workplace, in serving the community, to benefit those around us. It's precisely what old Sydneyan Rowan Gillies suggested in the piece I read last week in Assembly, that what we do for others is likely to be the richest source of life's meaning and purpose. Well, not everyone will find themselves heading to international war zones with Médecins Sans Frontières, like Gillies, but we can all do our bit in our own sphere of influence, no matter how seemingly insignificant, to make the world a better place, and not be seduced by the prevailing culture of individualism and materialism. As tempting as it is to despair at the state of the world or the nation, there are things we can all do. The late US Senator Robert F. Kennedy, speaking to university students in South Africa in 1966, well before the end of apartheid, had this to say, quote, "Each time a man stands up for an ideal, or acts to improve the lot of others, or strikes out against injustice, he sends forth a tiny ripple of hope. And crossing each other from a million different centres of energy and daring, those ripples build a current which can sweep down the mightiest walls of oppression and resistance." End of quote. And so it was that through a combination of internal and international pressures, apartheid in South Africa ended in 1992. So to conclude, treat each other as you would wish to be treated, and be guided by what is good. Two maxims which have underpinned your time at Grammar and the fine men you are already becoming. And I want to reiterate just how impressive a year group you have been. Thank you all once again for all you have done for this school. It's our sincere hope that you will find purpose and fulfilment and joy in your lives ahead. Thank you.